Public service announcement. The day we recorded this, my microphone didn't want to cooperate, so the audio was really, really bad. It's not that much better right now, but it's better than what it was that day.
So hey guys, it's Script Wolves. We're back. We've got a lot of thoughts about episode 8 and season 1, of course. We'll probably make a few videos about this stuff, but today we're here to talk about monsters.
All the monsters. Who is a monster? Who isn't a monster? And also, I was a little inspired to bring the monster topic up because I just read Frankenstein in 2 days. And so watching the 8th episode, I was just like, yep, I see them all. I see all these monsters.
Well, that's the thing. You know, Alien Earth is a show that asks us who is the real monster. And that was the title of last night's episode, or the other day's episode, The Real Monster. But of course, the very first monster story ever, the modern monster story, is Frankenstein. And it asks the same question. Who is the real monster? Is it the monster, or is it the human following the dark path? And of course, we've got all the monsters here. We got literal monsters, humans turning into monsters, these new hybrid monsters, the corporations, which are monstrous. And we're also going to take a look at the kids. The kids have been sort of lagging behind the rest of the plot for a lot of us. I feel like now we have enough information on each one of them individually to where they really have snapped into focus for me. So I'm looking forward to talking about each one individually and their monstrous potential, except for Smee. He's a good boy.
He's the best boy. All he's done is want to help his friends. Like, that's it.
That's right.
That's his whole thing.
And then we've also got Plant Thing, the Snuggie, the Plumb Bob.
The worst Snuggie in the world. I don't want to use it. Nasty.
Oh, yeah. So we'll have a short freak out about that. But mostly we're here to talk about the monstrous themes of the story, of the season, and this final episode. So with that said, let's get started. So Miki, you have just done the legwork of reading Frankenstein, brushing up on it for us, and we're going to talk about how this relates to the story. Some of it is very obvious, right? We talked about who is the monster, humans obsessed with creation. That's a big theme of all the Aliens movies. Not only creation, but actually reanimation, putting monsters together from different body parts reminds us of David from Prometheus. Of course, the original title of Frankenstein has Prometheus in the title, does it not?
It does, which surprised me. I know I haven't seen the movie, but that made me think of you. I was like, you've mentioned this movie. This is important.
Well, yeah, it's just this pursuit of immortality. In Alien Earth, it's more about transhumanism, right? We've got people trying to be cyborgs, upload their consciousness into an eternal hybrid. So we are trying to become immortal or go beyond the limits of our mortality. So it's very applicable.
It is. So let's do a recap of Frankenstein. And as I'm talking about it and mentioning these characters, I want everyone to start thinking about Alien Earth characters and where they would fit in the story. So if you don't know, Frankenstein is not the monster. Frankenstein is our main protagonist. His full name is Victor Frankenstein. And I'll also read some quotes that absolutely wrecked me. I was crying while reading this book, y'all. It surprised me, this book.
Now, does the monster ever get a name, or is he just Frankenstein's monster?
He doesn't have a name, and he doesn't refer to himself as anything other than I.
Okay, so already that's making me think of Wendy's sort of total abnegation of identity. I don't even know what I am. Like, wow, that's... Okay, go ahead.
So the monster's creation and abandonment. In the book, Victor, he was just a kid. Like a kid who was obsessed with learning, and he found out that he loves the natural philosophies, which at that time were just natural sciences, but he was super obsessed with chemistry. So he worked for 2 years. Like, I'm talking like that's all he did. He didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't talk to people for one goal, and that was to reanimate corpses.
So basically like me with YouTube videos, but with reanimating corpses.
Yeah, just like that. So when he did succeed, he was so excited, and then he was immediately repulsed by his work. So this is what he said as soon as it happened. Mingled with this horror, I felt the bitterness of disappointment. Dreams that had been my food and pleasant rest for so long a space were now become a hell to me. And the change was so rapid, the overthrow so complete.
I feel like Boy Cavalier should be having that thought. He's still having too much fun with putting iBug into people and thinking about how wicked his hybrids are and stuff, but the change was rapid and the overthrow is complete. That's just what happened, isn't it?
It is. So then we get to the monster. and when he awoke. When he awoke, Frankenstein literally saw him and was like, gross, I'm out of here. So then you have this monster having to learn everything on his own for 2 years. He learns language, he learns how to survive, he learns human complexities like emotion, dreams, goals, even the idea of death.
Yeah, and even though it's not as dramatic in Alien Earth, Cavalier is sort of letting these hybrid kids, who they were kids a couple weeks ago, they're sort of raising themselves. In a lot of these scenes, they're by themselves trying to figure stuff out, getting manipulated by Morrow. The one person that's supposed to protect them that knows about it is letting it happen. You know, Cavalier didn't just go, oh, gross, I don't want anything to do with these. But he did get distracted by the aliens and sort of just leave the kids alone, didn't he?
He did. From one thing to the other, it's like I don't know how long Boy Cavalier was creating these hybrids. I'm sure it wasn't just a few months. I mean, this is Prodigy, a huge $1 trillion company. So just imagine all the work he put into it to literally go from one day to the next of like, ooh, shiny new aliens. Let's talk about them instead.
And we are going to make a Cavalier ADHD video. Both me and Miki are navigating life with a certain amount of the ADHD. So we have thoughts on this. So watch out for that in the next week or two.
And so the monster is one of a kind, and it is alone. Victor abandons him. Even when he sees humans, his first interaction with the human, it just goes so wrong. The human looks at him, freaks out, hits him with a stick, and runs away. And so he's just sitting there like, what did I do? Like, what am I? And he doesn't realize what he looks like until he sees a reflection of himself. And he has a moment of, oh, this is what I am. Like, this is like what I look like. When he said this, it broke my heart and I cried. He said, when I looked around, I saw and heard none like me. Was I then a monster, a blot upon the earth from which all men fled and whom all men disowned? So you think about his experience thus far, and it's true loneliness. Absolutely true. He has no one to talk to. Like, the only thing that he gets is observing, is looking at other humans, but he has to hide as he does it.
I just can't help but think of iBug. Arthur, the reaction to Arthur, like, hey guys, I'm back. Your eye looks a little swollen, buddy. You should get that looked at. No, but seriously, we're talking about the hybrids mostly here. Like, they are unique. They have no home to go back to. They have no family but each other. There's nothing else like them in the world. The world isn't really made for them. So they're not as visibly horrifying as Frankenstein, but this is a thought that they could be having. Like, and they do. Wendy talks about it. You know, we're not children, we're not adults. We're not this, we're not that. What are we? I don't know.
It's true. They have these questions throughout the season. They don't know, and others also don't know what they are. We see Kersh, for example. The only thing he says is, well, you're not prey anymore, so you're predators. And like, what does that tell Wendy and Nibs? Nibs literally becomes a predator. I mean, she goes wild.
Yeah, who's more terrifying, Nibs or the Snuggie, the plumb bob plant? I'm not sure. We'll talk about it. As we said at the opening, a big part of Frankenstein is the idea of Dr. Frankenstein himself becoming the monster through his actions. Both the creation of Frankenstein and the abandonment that you just mentioned, right?
It's true. And the big part of the story, Frankenstein's monster realizes his loneliness, internalizes that, literally follows Frankenstein through a vacation. It's a whole thing. And all he wants from his creator is to make a partner for him, because he even says, I realize I'm alone. I realize, like, you don't want me. So please make me another and I will leave you alone forever.
Which, of course, is a strange, they're messing with the Garden of Eden story there. Whereas the kind God of Genesis creates Eve for Adam so he won't be lonely. And so here's Adam banging on God's door going, where's my Eve? And he's like, no, I really can't do that again. That was messed up.
And it's so sad because in the book, Frankenstein's monster even tells him, you know, I thought when I was created, I would be your Adam. Like, I was clay shaped into man. Like, why aren't I special? I thought I was special because you created me.
So we see that emotional beat with Curly, who's, I thought I was your favorite. She literally says it to Cavalier. I thought it was your favorite. And Cavalier's like, oh, did I say that? Oh, that might be something I would say. I don't know. You know, so she feels that disappointment. Like, I wanted to make you proud of me, because Cavalier is a sort of parent to these creations. We saw that with Isaac wanting Kersh to be proud of him. And we see Curly wanting Cavalier to be proud of her, pleased with her, impressed with her intelligence. And when denied that, it's a big hurt.
It is. And I think that's a big motivation for Curly to kind of link back up with the hybrid gang, because I honestly thought she was just going to tattletale and go be with the adults. I was very surprised that, well, she didn't. We don't know, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, there's an interesting plot discussion point there. She may be sort of flipping, she may be sitting right in the middle of that balance, but we'll talk about where Curly's loyalties lie in a moment. So who are the monsters in the story? That's the question. I mean, that's literally the title of the episode, The Real Monster. It invites us to ask the question. So let's start with Cavalier.
So Cavalier, we've compared him to Peter Pan. I mean, the show literally gives us, hey, you're not Peter Pan, right? Like, it's obvious, it's direct. But I think he's also Frankenstein. They're both young. They're both blinded by hubris. They're obsessed with the creation of life. A Cavalier wants to live forever, or he wants at least people to pay him so they can live forever. They don't consider the rights or perspectives of their beings that they created, because Frankenstein is just like, okay, that's your existence. Like, you just need to leave me alone. And Cavalier doesn't think about the hybrid's experience. Even they have this discussion with Dame and Kersh about the need for hybrids to experience emotion. And Kersh talks about dialing it down or up and how it may not even be important. Like, that's wild, right? Like, you don't have a say in this. I'm going to tell you how much feeling you have.
And so Cavalier's sense of superiority is so deeply ingrained into his psyche that even when the tables have clearly turned and the hybrids have the power, and Wendy's just shown that she can unlock the door and she controls the xenomorph, and he still is like, you're floor models, babes. What are you talking about? You're floor models and you're blowing it. Like, he cannot see their humanity at all. And then, of course, Joe is literally a person, and he's just like, we'll feed Joe to the iBug. Like we said, he's a sociopath. But, they really set us up with the sucker punch, with the Peter Pan thing. Because it's like, no, he clearly is playing the role of Peter Pan, but in this fraudulent way. And so they set up Wendy to give this really cutting breakdown of his psychology in children's language. Very simple, just like, you're not Peter Pan. You're an angry little man. You've never been a kid, at least not since the age of 6. We'll talk about that. And you basically chose to hate everybody instead of doing the hard work of, like, working on yourself or whatever. And you're just like your father. It was like, that was brutal. And they set it up so well.
The line, you're just like your daddy. Oh, that killed me. He needed to hear it, because if we think about Frankenstein, his actions, he created this monster, abandoned him, and then he became a monster and started hunting his monster down to go kill him. Cavalier has been a monster his whole life, like you just mentioned. He killed his dad, created a synth to run a company for himself, killed kids, or rather convinced sick kids to consent to be killed so that they can become a hybrid. And then he interferes with saving Joe, messes with his lung, didn't ask Joe, just took it, started experimenting with it. And then, of course, we saw him feed iBug to Joe. Like, that's insane. He walked in, cage is open. What are you gonna do?
That scene was incredible. So let's talk about Hermit Crab. This is a pun that we figured out. Joe's name is Hermit, so is Marcy, I guess. But first of all, we see not hermit crabs. Different. Those would be like emperor crabs or something, feeding on Arthur's body. Okay, and then we see Teocellus, obviously where Arthur, and it's like, oh, the bodies are like the shells. Like a hermit crab swaps, shells. Teocellus is like that. He's swapping bodies like shells, and he was coming for Joe Hermit. And then how did Joe hide from the ocellus in the scene? He went inside the little chamber like a crab hiding in his shell. So I don't know that that's like super deep or anything, but it's kind of fun the way they're playing with it.
It is super fun. And just like a hermit crab, as it grows, it exchanges its shell for a bigger and bigger and bigger shell. iBug's doing that with its host, with their intelligence, right? We don't know what he's done before he was on the Yutani ship. And I'm not trying to say that Shmuel wasn't as intelligent as the sheep. I mean, that joke writes itself, but it tells you something that he wants to go from a sheep to a human, and he's waiting for his chance. I mean, all he's doing is sitting there, watching, observing.
Well, so technically, because they told the story out of order, we saw iBug wear the sheep first and then Shmuel. But yeah, we'll assume that Shmuel is He's one of the smarter people on the ship. He actually knows how to fix things. So we'll give him that. Yeah, no, the insanity of trying to put iBug into Joe in Cavalier's office is crazy. Like if that had worked, now he's wearing a human and he's in the CEO's office. And then it didn't work and he just slipped out the chute. Like that wasn't a contained experiment at all. That was an insane experiment to do. Oh, and now he's wearing Arthur. I have 6 degrees and all the passcodes and the knowledge of the hybrids. We don't know how much of the brain, it's been dead a few hours, how much information is stored for iBug to access. But I think we should assume that iBug's going to have access to that info, because why else put him in a body with 6 degrees? Like they really called that out.
Hey, he's bragging about 6 degrees, probably because he had to pay off those student loans. I'll brag about my 1 degree, till the cows come home. I have 1. I haven't paid for it, but I will one day.
Well, you earn it once with the work and then you earn it a second time paying off the loans. Exactly. So you mentioned Adam. Let's just talk about him real quick. This is the first monster that Cavalier made, essentially. And I think I figured out something about this that the show is implying but not spelling out. Okay, so he's telling the story about his abusive, drunken father. Like, okay, we get it. So he, being a boy genius, made a robot to defend himself. There's a little kernel of sympathy that we have for him there. But the part in the story where he's like, I made a gentleman, a distinguished gentleman. And one day my dad came home from work and there was my robot sitting on the couch. And that was that. And the reason why that was that is because I think he made the robot in the image of his father so that the robot could pose as his father and be the fake adult for Cavalier. Like that whole scheme works a lot better if the robot can act as his dad. So he may have changed the face now. We can't assume that Adam Ines' current face is what his dad looked like, but he definitely made a fake father. And I think he probably made it to look like his real father because that would just make too much sense. And that makes it really chilling.
It does, but kids need permission slips signed. So I guess he needed someone to sign his permission slips. Someone to pick him up from school.
It's my robot dad. He says they moved right away. So it's like, the neighbors won't be able to tell. But yeah, that's pretty sick and twisted. And maybe it is the same face. Whether it is or not, basically Cavalier made a version of his dad that knew his place. Because remember, he said, my dad, before he could get jealous of the boy genius. And I think that's maybe a little bit about Kersh too. Like Cavalier likes having this really smart person that he can put in his place and that isn't jealous, quote unquote.
Speaking of Kersh, another monster that we have in the show, we've talked about him being Peter Pan's shadow who carries out Peter's wishes. He's the darker side of Peter Pan. But in the episode, what is he doing? He's in that science lab doing God knows what. He's just being a little mad scientist. Like that's all he's been doing this second part of the season is whatever he's doing to the aliens, we don't know.
So this is where the Peter Pan's shadow thing is really giving and giving. It's not just a fun little thing to figure out. Like Kersh is acting as Cavalier's shadow and also kind of like his id, right? Like Peter Pan Cavalier, he wants to do the experiments. He's dreaming the dreams, but it's Kersh in there doing the Dr. Frankenstein thing, playing mad scientist. Constantly just seeing what happens. Let's put the alien in the lung. Let's throw the kid in the lab. Let's just see what happens. So you can really see how Kersh is acting as Cavalier's shadow or his will, his id, and he's carrying out these experiments. And even right before the confrontation with Morrow, I believe that what Kersh was doing was working on restore and reboot for Isaac. It looked like he had a brain core out there. And so essentially this is Dr. Frankenstein trying to bring his monster back to life.
And this is also a huge reason why Wendy resents him, hates him, because she feels the pain of the aliens. And I think she will feel the pain for Isaac as well. She walked in and she was like, what happened? What are you going to do? And they just were like, science happened. Don't worry about it. They downplayed it. So I think Wendy's internalizing all of that. And she's like, there's a lot of going down that I do not approve of. It is not right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I had to think about it for a second. When the boys turned on Kersh, we all like Kersh because he's such an interesting character. So I had to stop and think for a second. I was like, why do they resent him too? And Wendy was feeling the pain of those alien experiments that Kersh was carrying out. And she has spoken about how much she detests people's desire to just cut things open to see how they work. And Kersh is the one doing that. And then Kersh also, of course, he used Slightly and Smee, essentially, to catch Morrow. And so by this time, Slightly and Smee realize that. And so when they come back, he gives them the order and they both look at each other like, are we listening to this guy anymore? Like, no, we're not.
And what surprised me about all the hybrids going out and what were they doing? Hide and seek. They were capturing all the adults. I honestly thought that they were just going to go unalive some of these adults just straight away, especially with Nibs going into Dame's office. I was like, ooh, this is happening right now. But Wendy told them, no, we're just gathering them up. So she has that control over the hybrids.
We're arresting the adults. So it's sort of reeling the violence back into the Peter Pan Lost Boys, oh, we're playing games kind of a thing. And we do have a lot of thoughts about Wendy. We're going to make a Wendy video. Wendy was pretty interesting in this episode with her calm, sort of zen haunting of the house. Well, some of this is relevant though. So let's talk about the hybrids as monsters. So the first thing is that Cavalier is in a way using body parts, different body parts to reanimate people. He's combining a synth mind and human parts. And I still think there's a possibility that his brain technology is using like brain matter or something, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, we don't know what's left over. We just saw the body bags being zipped up. I still think they took some stuff out, so we can talk about that later.
Well, I guess using Joe's lung to make a new xenomorph kind of fits into this idea too. Like we're recycling body parts to make monsters. So it's, not a straight one-to-one, obviously, but that definitely seems similar. And then, of course, they are going after their creators. I mean, that's what happens in this episode. That's the whole plot. They realize their power and they say, oh, they should be afraid of us. And they become monsters. And in fact, Wendy embraces using terror. Like straight up. That's the whole point of like, we can be ghosts, and then they haunt the house. Like the whole thing with the elevator. Elevators don't self-destruct. There's no self-destruct mechanism in an elevator. She was literally just putting fear into the soldiers and like sort of with them.
That scene scared me so much. I was like, see, this is why I don't like taking elevators. One example. There we go. Claustrophobic, but now this is why. Self-destruct.
Let's talk about each of the hybrids and their monstrous potential. We just mentioned Wendy. Wendy is really chilling. Like, she doesn't revel in the violence in the way that Nibs does, but she doesn't have any remorse. She kills a lot of people with her xenomorph and doesn't blink at any of it. She also does not refuses to understand why Joe stunned Nibs. And Smee gets it. Smee's like, she was killing people. And Wendy doesn't she's so flipped against people and specifically like the corporation, the Prodigy Corporation, that she does no longer feel any remorse for killing people. The next step will be for her to choose to breed xenomorphs with facehuggers inside of humans. And that's really going to be a monstrous step next season when we see that.
She will be a queen bee creating a colony.
She almost said the word queen. You could feel it. She's like, I'm not this. I don't know what I am. It's like, you're the alien queen. Or even the dark goddess. I told you there's some stuff deep in the alien lore where there's some sort of goddess, mech woman, alien creature that's beyond a queen that people see in visions and stuff. And I really do start to think that is where they're going with Wendy. She's going to become the alien god, essentially.
And then, we've mentioned her before, Nibs. So Nibs is a really easy comparison to a monster. She goes full-blown psycho. I'm not going to say she loves, but she definitely enjoys committing violence. She has a strong defensive instinct. Nobody messes with her insides. Or Mr. Strawberry. She was very clear about that last episode. She goes through a crisis because she realizes, by Wendy telling her, I'm missing something. I have everything inside of me. What do you mean I don't remember that? And we know she has trauma. This was confirmed. Dame even mentions it. We knew she had something before we allowed her into this program. I mean, she even thought she was pregnant.
So it really clicked in. Like I said, a lot of the stuff about the hybrid snapped into focus for me this episode. All of these things are bodily autonomy. Whatever her abuse was probably a violation of bodily autonomy. Now she's in a robot body, which she doesn't understand. That's why she's like pushing on her eye. She's trying to figure out what is inside of her. Then she hallucinated a pregnancy, which was taken from her through the reboot. And so it's just breaking the fourth wall for a minute. Like, we as humans, the relatable story here is like a teenage girl that got pregnant and her family forced her to have an abortion because it was dishonorable. Essentially, the mental version of this has happened to Nibs. And then with her thoughts, so it's literally her physical insides and her mental insides are being violated. And so she has responded with a violent defense of her body and mind. That is very understandable. What's chilling is Wendy's choice to start weaponizing it. Up until the last scene, we see Nibs's violence as like, just like, oh wow, she's spiraling out. She's fragmenting. Her mentality is fragmenting from all these reboots. But in the last scene, Nibs becomes the attack dog. Like, she's killing the security guard and the other kids are just like, yep, that's our Nibs. She, don't mess with us or you're going to get the Nibs. So they're weaponizing this traumatic response of hers. And that really is chilling and monstrous. And it occurs to me, Miki, that what they're doing with these kids is that they are giving, each kid has a different element of Frankenstein's perspective. With Nibs, we get this rage, okay? With Wendy, it's this reflection on identity. Okay, with Shmi, we said Shmi's a good boy. He's the only one of these hybrids who isn't acting in any monstrous way. This is depicting the innocence of Frankenstein's monster, who just wants to belong. He wants to have a girlfriend. He wants to talk to people and learn. He sees all the joy around him. He wants to participate. That's Shmi. He's like, can't we just play games?
It's true. He's the innocence. He is what Frankenstein's monster is at the beginning of his life. He's curious. He wants to belong. He hasn't done anything wrong. And it's not until things are done to him does he turn. And we see that with Shmi at the end of the episode with the adults.
Yeah, and Shmi's standing with the other hybrids, but it will be really heartbreaking if we see him actually start to do evil and become a monster. So hopefully that won't happen, but I wouldn't count on it.
Speaking of Shmi, his bestie, Slightly, is also monstrous. He is a victim of an incredibly cruel scheme with Morrow. I mean, he is terrorized. He is given no choice in his actions. He's been manipulated. He doesn't know what he's doing is wrong because it's always justified by, well, I'm protecting my mom. I'm not going to hurt someone else. It's okay that I do it. And then we see Morrow is also lumped in with the adults as a they.
Yeah, so he's doing that lazy thinking of like, oh, well, everyone who's oppressed us is the same. And that sort of thinking can lead to a lot of violence and extremism, essentially. Again, you see the difference with Shmi and Slightly. Shmi's like, we did a bad thing. He's feeling bad about Arthur. And Slightly's like, no, it's not our fault. They made us do it. It's true that they were manipulated, but like a realistic assessment of the situation would be, I was manipulated to do a wrong thing. But he's completely disowning any responsibility. And he's a kid, so whatever. But like, he's also a hybrid. He's also a Superman. So this lack of taking responsibility could be leading to some dark places. And then finally, we have Curly. We mentioned Curly a little bit already. Interesting point. She says that she didn't tell. We don't know if she did or didn't because there were multiple ways that these bad escape plans could get caught. So it doesn't have to be that Curly blabbed, but it sure seemed like she was about to when she was sitting in Dame's lap. I mean, she came up to her and said, oh, I have a secret. And I don't know if what I should do about it. Like, obviously she's getting ready to blab the secret.
Yeah, I can definitely see she's in survival mode. She's looking out for herself. I mean, you can play both sides. And if you convince one side, the side who's winning, I mean, you'll be okay, right? Because at this point, hybrids are in control. So she better stand with her brothers and sisters. I mean, I don't know how devious she is, but she's definitely been trying to get on the good side of Cavalier specifically. And it is chilling when she was like, what can I do to be your favorite? I learned this language. I can do everything that Wendy can do, like almost shameless that she's been doing that all season. So when she suddenly comes on the hybrid side, I'm like, what else is going on? Have you always been on this side?
Yeah, I think she's caught in the middle. She feels betrayed by Cavalier, but we can't say that she's abandoned the dream of trying to make him proud, though. If circumstances change next season, she may go back to trying to help Cavalier. I think she's just kind of caught in the middle and doesn't know which way she's going and is lying a little bit to cover her tracks because she feels embarrassed. But she's definitely a wild card. You identified the Tinkerbell parallels. Tinkerbell, of course, jealous of Wendy and jealous of Peter Pan's affection for Wendy. We see that with Curly and Cavalier. So yeah, Tinkerbell is a little bit of a wild card in the Peter Pan story, and similarly so is Curly.
She is. I mean, Tinkerbell has no issue hurting Wendy. When they return from London, like the second they get into Neverland and Peter's like, take Wendy and take her brothers to the Lost Boys, she's like, let me go ahead actually and tell the Lost Boys to go ahead and start shooting at Wendy. Like insane behavior. Who does that? The Wendy bird. And so it just reminds me of Curly, how maybe she was willing to hurt Wendy as well during most of the season to get on Cavalier's good side. So we've gone over some different monsters. Now I was thinking about Cavalier, and we've talked about him being Frankenstein, but you can also see him as a monster too. If we think of him, you know, he's a child, he was birthed, he was created by an abusive dad. And so now he's going back and being abusive too. I mean, maybe that's the whole point of the show, is that anybody could be a monster depending on what you're doing, depending on your outlook and your actions.
Well, think about this. Cavalier deposed his father because he was violent and angry, and ended up imitating his father, being violent and angry, and he's not taking care of his children, just as his father didn't take care of him. Now his children are turning against him, just as he turned against his father. So there's definitely a cycle being depicted here. And the question is, like, are the hybrids going to be capable of breaking this cycle, or are they going to repeat the cycle of violence? Because, like, the idea that these 6 hybrids are going to rule the island while there's aliens running around and Weyland-Yutani troops closing in, like, this is not going to be a utopia here.
I don't see it going well for the kids. I mean, we've seen Morrow already come with a good amount of people sneaking up on them. So now that Yutani has troops not sneaking around, just literally going at them, you can see them. I'm just like, Yutani has the resources to take this over. And like you've told me before, Prodigy doesn't continue, right, in the Alien series?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're seeing here is that Yutani is a heavyweight corporation. They've been around a long time. They send ships out into space. 65 years ago, they're already doing that. Prodigy is some fly-by-night up-jumped startup within the last 15 years that's gotten way too big for its britches. And we can see that in this episode. Not only with like the mold that they can't control at all, their lack of employees, their lack of lab security procedures, because Cavalier just does everything quick. We move fast and break things and all that. And it's like their island isn't secure. It's easily cut off from the outside world with a few Marines swimming around. Like Yutani has this thing sewed up. No problem. And I was thinking that this was coming. I forgot to say this in the episode after we saw that board meeting. It really seems like Cavalier outsmarts Yutani. And you're like, man, Yutani's, they ain't got nothing. They didn't even know, they didn't have anything prepared. And it's like, I kind of had a feeling we were going to see Yutani put the smackdown on Prodigy. They're only hinting that it's coming in next season, but you could see it coming. Like I said, they completely isolated the island as soon as they chose to, and have destabilized it quickly. And Cavalier's trying to do the Scarface. Oh, you want to play with me? And it's like, no, dude, you don't have it. You don't have it. You don't even have a pile of cocaine and an automatic machine gun. You don't even have that.
It's true. And 2 things from what you just said. When Cavalier took out aren't you supposed to quarantine aliens off-worlders for 6 weeks? Like, you're not... Like, you wouldn't be doing that. You're sneaking them on the planet. That seems like something that Kersh would just pull out from, like, searching the law for the Earth. Like, I don't know if Cavalier was the one to actually think about that. And then 2, talking about the island and how easy it is to sneak on. Let's talk about how easy it is to get the power cut off. Like, where are all the generators? Like, you would think that this island would have its own power source, its own grid, but like Cavalier's walking around, Wendy's able to just turn off everything. There's no safeguards on that. Like, that's insane.
Well, so Wendy being a super hacker, we'll talk about Wendy in a different video, but like, it makes sense that if she's got a powerful AI and access to the network, that she can mess with the network. And the lab did have its own power. At least the lab doors are still locked. But yeah, their main Wi-Fi connection, under the ocean or whatever, it was cut. And the thing about Yutani is that like they've been around a long time. They've been sending deep space missions for decades and decades. So like we're supposed to understand Cavalier's an idiot for messing with this company, not working things out, thinking that he could crash their ship and steal their aliens and just flick them off in the meeting and insult them and put his feet. There you go. There you go. You saw it was quick. If you pause it, you could see. I tried to keep it moving. I know how you feel about this. Why do you call them dogs, by the way?
I don't know. You just got them dogs out.
You're completely now. When I hear dogs out, I don't think who let the dogs out anymore. I think about you talking about Cavalier. Okay, so let's close with a quick freak out. Not about feet, but the plant, the Snuggie, the plum bob. It's called E. plumbicatus or plumbicare or something like that. I just think of a plum bob. Which is the thing you dangle to like, oh God, I'm doing a bad explanation. A plumb bob, you use it in construction. It's a little weight that hangs from a string and you can line things up or something like that. But yeah, this thing is a plumb bob. It hangs above you and it bobs. You're the apple. It goes bobbing for apples. It bobs you and then it constricts you and just breaks your bones and the blood starts leaking out and the legs are kicking and like, wow, that was disgusting and horrible. Way worse than I thought.
So I had two thoughts with our little Snuggie melon. Is one, when we first see it, it was just chilling in the hallway, remember, on this ship? And we were wondering, how did it get there? Like, can it move so fast? That thing moves so fast, it just set up shop right there. And then the second thing is, you know how when Isaac is like walking past it, it gets its little tendril and like kind of tickles him or like is like observing him and kind of goes back. It's like, I'm not going to mess with you. But then it does that to the woman. And I'm like, girl, like you're actually going to be eaten. Like he's like, this thing is deciding to eat you.
I thought it was maybe going to like grab the person's face with the little thing and pull them up. But no, the whole thing went down. That was so much more startling, just like, whoom. Oh my God, that was frightening. And we've seen, it hangs from the ceiling by like one root, tendril, tail thing that it curls around. And so I think we can assume that this evolved probably to live in a forest. It probably hangs from trees. It obviously looks like a plant. So it probably just hangs out in the jungle from a strong branch and dangles its little stamen down there and then just slurps people up. It probably does really well in the forest. And then we also saw that it can do the skin camouflage like an octopus.
I mean, it is definitely a predator, like a chameleon does it for self-preservation. This guy does it so you're not noticing him. He's just going to sneak up on you.
And there is a loose connection between the universe of the Predator movies and the Alien movies. And so some people have wondered, maybe this thing comes from the Predators' homeworld because the Predators, they have the technology to bend light around their bodies and effectively be almost invisible. And so maybe they synthesized it from this plant animal thing, which I'm still not sure if it's a plant or an animal. It's probably something in between, like some sort of weird evolved plant that is animal-like. They don't really need to explain that. It's aliens. So, but yeah, it's freaky deaky. The way those muscular arms wrung her out like a sponge, you could hear the bones breaking. I didn't expect it to be sudden and violent. I thought it would just like smother, but no, it's just like, oh, it was so nasty, dude.
When we see it like extend itself, like ready to engulf her, it actually looked like bat wings. So I wonder if it has other modes of transportation, like it could just like flap around. Like that's literally what it looked like. It looked like, stretched out skin and like these little bones coming out. So I don't know. What if it can fly? I mean, I'm not saying it has, but that would be incredibly scary.
That would definitely be even worse. And it seems like it wants to drop on people. Because as fast as it can move, it could just run at you and jump on you, but it doesn't seem to do that. It wants to hang and dangle and grab because it uses all of its arms to grab and then it wants to just constrict and digest. So it needs to be hanging. So there's a little bit of a limitation, but God, that was startling when it moved. And another reason why I think it probably evolved to hang out in forests is because as soon as it gets loose, its instinct was to climb. It's the first thing it did was climb up. So you can see how it works. It hangs from branches, it climbs, and it drops on people. Last question is, how does it reproduce? Probably like spores or something, startlingly fast. So there's only one right now, But I do think in season 2, there's going to be a load of these in the forest now.
We already know there's ticks everywhere. So what's another alien reproducing?
And also, I think the fly bugs obviously will get out. How many of those people are going to get eaten by aliens in that jail cell? You know, I feel like at least one of them is going to get attacked in there helplessly. The ticks will crawl in or something. But yeah, season 2, they've got a lot of ways we can go with season 2. We'll do a season 2 predictions and questions video at some point. But before we go, let's return to iBug real quick, because we have been speculating that iBug might be the only one of his kind. And we also speculated that iBug might be cobbled together from like 8 eyeballs and a brainstem and an octopus by some mad scientist like David from Prometheus or who knows who. And that literally would make it more Frankenstein-like if it was cobbled together from different body parts. So I feel like that theory is gaining traction. And it makes you wonder, is iBug capable of reproducing? Is it just some created being that is eternal and there's only one of it? And just as Frankenstein kind of just wants to learn about the world, maybe that's what iBug is doing, is wearing people and traveling just to learn.
Yeah, and then maybe iBug will go back to its creator and demand for a partner. That'd be freaky.
That would be something I would love to find out in season 2. Where did these aliens come from? It's one of the biggest mysteries that they've not touched. Where did they come from? What planets? The people on the Maginot were talking about, we lost people trying to capture these things. So like, if they want, they can show us some of that in flashback. So yeah, if Ocellus was created, who created it? And if it wasn't created, that means that it probably can reproduce. And at some point, it's going to spawn a bunch of little baby octopi in a pond somewhere, and we're all going to freak out.
I don't know what's scarier, knowing that someone created this like ultra monster, or that this ultra monster can just create more of its own.
When the tick, I keep saying but that's what it did. When it squirted its little babies into the water bottle, that was one of the, maybe the most startling moment of this entire season. That was just awful for me. That was horrific.
The suspense of someone drinking out of that water bottle, it killed me. I was looking at my water bottle during that episode. I was like, girl, there's a top on this. I'm not letting this out of my sight.
I eat sandwiches every day, Miki. Gotta look under that bread.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope you check them.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time with another video. Thanks for watching. We do appreciate everyone that's been subscribing to the channel lately. We got a lot of new subs. Appreciate y'all reading the comments. Really appreciate the kindness and the support. So see you next time with another video.
Bye.